This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. Episode 206 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. Make sure you're following Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me on X, as you can see on the bottom right there, at Ant Rivera 86. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you like to listen to the show instead. But if you want to be a part of the chat today, you are definitely going to want to be on YouTube. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. It gets out to more Mets fans that are out there. Share it with your Met fans, friends, and family. Get it out there so that everyone can be tuned in and can be on this chat. And you can support the Subway to Shea podcast using super chats, super stickers, super thanks now available via YouTube. Make sure you comment. It is definitely going to be read there and within reason. Don't be cute and make some kind of snarky comment there. No shenanigans. This is all going to be talking about what the Mets can be doing with what is right now a tough stretch here. Now, I don't know what is worst. I got my tooth pulled on Tuesday. And I don't know if this is worse, the tooth pulling, or what I've seen this week from the Mets. And I'm going to say probably the Mets, watching the Mets this week has been tough. 48-36. Thankfully, they've gotten a lot of leeway and have built up all this equity during the season to still only be 12 games out of 5, to be 12 games over 500, even losing 12 out of 15 games. They're a half game behind the Phillies. So I want to know in the chat, we've got 20 people in the room right now. Shout outs to Armand, G Money Stacks, Peter, who's in the chat, Duran Rivera, Nelson Cruz in the room as well. Shout out to all of you guys that are in here and a part of this whole episode. Appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you let me know, what are your thoughts on the season so far? We are halfway through the season now. A little bit past, a few games past, but we are halfway through the season. Mets still in a playoff spot, but quickly fading as the June swoon continues to bog down this team. And my guest today is none other than Pete Kennedy, host of the Subway Sports Talk podcast, producer at WFAN, and a part of Tio, Al, and Friends every Thursday on Uptown Sports TV on their YouTube page. Make sure you check them out on X at P. Kennedy, and that's with 2 Y's, as you see on his name right there, and at Subway Sports Talk. Pete, how you doing, my friend?
I know you said you didn't want to see any shenanigans in the chat. I'm all for shenanigans today because that's what the Mets are. The Mets are full of shenanigans over the last 2.5 weeks, Anthony. That's all they got going on is shenanigans. But no, I do feel you on the tooth pulled, because the toothache type pain, or the tooth pain, is one of the most, debilitating things that you can deal with. And yes, watching the Mets over the last 2 weeks was just as bad as one of those situations. We're going to talk about it all. I'm excited to know that the Mets did so well to start this thing that we don't have to run away from Citi Field and never look back again. But man, this is brutal right now. This is absolutely brutal.
It has been brutal, and it's crazy because even with the run that they had in April and May, we were still a little bit cautiously optimistic, considering that the hitting was still not, and to this point, they're still not hitting with runners in scoring position. The pitching was doing all the work, basically. And, you look at now, and we'll talk about this first, because let's talk about the positive, right? Juan Soto has had an absolutely hot June, batting over 320, has an OPS around 1.21, 11 homers, 20 RBIs, 25 walks. What has impressed you the most during Soto's June run here, and what changes have you seen kind of from his approach?
Well, let me get the thing that hasn't impressed me yet. Can you hit a home run with someone on base one time? What the hell is up with that? But no, I'll be positive here because I'm very positive about Juan Soto. I think, a lot of angst that existed amongst Mets fans and, a lot of hate that was coming his way from non-Mets fans. I get what they were doing. I get why people were feeling angsty. But what I like to see is that we're watching Juan Soto play baseball. This is who he is. He is a guy who has an incredible eye at the plate, who is going to attack pitches only he wants to attack. And I think Mets fans, it was weird. Let me say this, because last year when he went to the Yankees, I feel like Mets fans had a better understanding of who Juan Soto was, because we watched him so much in Washington, even when he was in San Diego in the National League. We kind of just got him more than Yankee fans did. And when Yankee fans saw him and the approach at the plate and the eye that he had, everyone's like, wow, watching this guy hit is so crazy. Like, it's so fun to watch. He's such a professional hitter. And then he just attacks when he sees the right pitch. I'm like, yeah, we knew that. But then we got him and we almost forgot. We got amnesia of who this dude is. It's exactly who he is. Now the ball is popping off the bat. It's kind of technically been popping off the bat all year, but now they're landing. Now they're going over the wall. And I am just so thrilled that all the stuff about him struggling and not being happy is put to bed, because it was all malarkey, all shenanigans. And now we get to just enjoy this dude who has such a unique approach, and now is just letting the ball, fly off his bat every single day.
And like you mentioned, it finally feels that he's officially at home and is enjoying himself in Queens. Yeah, he was down in the beginning because he wasn't performing. It's not because Juan Soto didn't want to be in Queens. He was not performing to his standards. And now he is. He's killing it. He's killing it right now, Pete.
He absolutely is. And you know what? Like, to the stats, and I know, from while following you and listening to you, I know you're I feel like we're pretty similar, like where we appreciate the analytics and things of that nature. We use it to back up the eye tests and stuff like that. And when you heard all these stats about Juan Soto, having one of the top hard hit ball percentages or exit velo averages, etc., you're like, it's only a matter of time for this guy to start seeing them fall, to start seeing them go over the fence. And yeah, it's like, what did we expect? This guy has been in the league for what, 8-9 years now already? Is it 10? Is he in year 10 now?
Yeah.
He's been this good the whole time.
Yeah, he's had a nice long run, and he wins the World Series with the Nationals in 2019, takes the Yankees to the World Series last season. We talked about him struggling with runners in scoring position, slash line of 149, 291, 312. That has to get up, which I assume it will. I mean, he is a professional hitter. We know what we can get from Juan Soto. The problem is the rest of the lineup ahead of him. Francisco Lindor struggling. You're getting nothing from 6 through 9, and I think as Jeff Cohen has stated it there, the 6 through 9 is almost an automatic out, like the pitcher hitting prior to DH days.
It's a great comment, Jeff.
So they have been struggling here. It's crazy now that Juan Soto is out that the rest of this lineup can't get itself together. Pete has, kind of been hovering around 300 and doing his thing, still getting some big hits. Lindor's really been struggling. The three best hitters right now, I think, have been Nimmo, have been Alonso, and Soto. Before we wrap up, the whole Soto talk, because, we got to get depressed for the rest of this episode. Juan Soto has really taken to hitting well in the 3-hole. In the lineup. Are you okay keeping him in that 3 spot or trying to move him around to get others going right now? I think that he stays there. That's his role. He's been his best his whole entire career hitting in the 3-hole. We know he hit even better when he was having Aaron Judge behind him. That's Aaron Judge. Right. That's a different situation. So I'm inclined to keep him at number 3 right now in the lineup. I think that's where he fits best.
My only thing about moving him back to 2 would be, and the numbers don't really back this up, but anecdotally, would be if he's behind Lindor, how much does that help Lindor? Right? That would be my main question mark. I tried to do some research on this and see how the numbers look, but Lindor was pretty damn good still for the first few weeks when Soto first moved to the 3 spot. I think it's been since May 21st is when Soto moved to the 3-hole. So the numbers don't really make sense to move him back to 2 for Lindor's sake. But also, if this continues, I'm fine with moving him back to 2 for that reason exactly, right? Because I think it's pretty obvious. SNY flashed this statistic yesterday. In wins, Lindor's OPS is over 1,000. In losses, his OPS is 460. Now, of course, usually your stats are better in wins than in losses, except for maybe Juan Soto right now because he's been so hot for the last 2 weeks. But that drastic of a difference for Lindor in wins versus losses, it kind of fleshes out the fact that he is kind of the engine of this roster. He's the engine of this lineup. And for Soto to be, used to his full potential, Lindor has to be playing well. So I'm open to it. if it helps Lindor. I'm not rushing to change that back to put Soto in the 2-hole, but I'm absolutely open to it kind of for that reason and that reason only.
Yeah, something's got to give with this lineup. At some point, like, I don't know what you do. You talked about it last week on the show. Is Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes firing them? Is that the answer? I mean, and if this team still doesn't hit like when they fired Chili Davis in 2021, then what do you do, right? Like, they have to figure out a way to start hitting here, and that's what we're going to get into next. Because as hot as Juan Soto has been, the struggles continue for this Mets offense. I said earlier, Soto, Alonso, Nim are really the ones that have been doing the bulk of the work over the last month. You can sprinkle in Jeff McNeil as well. The first three batters that I mentioned, batting over 300 this month. Lindor has hit the rough patch. Vientos has struggled in the few games that he has returned. And the baby Mets have really failed to take off here. No one has really asked them to be the savior of this team, but they aren't even pulling their own weight. I know Brett Beatty has kind of come on, but he's so streaky. Alvy and Francisco Alvarez and Luis Angel Acuna were sent down. If you look at their stats, Francisco Alvarez batted .236 so far this season, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, and a .652 OPS. Of course, he hits a home run in AAA the other day.
Yeah.
You know, what happened to Francisco Alvarez? It's been a complete meltdown, not just on offense, but on defense as well. And I think that's the reason why he got sent down. Is it all in the hand injury? Is there more to this? Is it mental, physical?
You know, I'm excited that he went down. I think there's certain times in your career, and he's absolutely still in the age range where this makes sense, right? You need to get your confidence up, right? Look at Vientos, look at Beatty. They've spent multiple, stints down there when they probably felt like they were major league players. And I know Alvarez, what is he, 23 still? 24 years old? This dude is young. He's a spring chicken, man. Like, he literally, most catchers or most players are not even making it to the majors by this age yet. So the fact that he's up here for technically his third year, he's had some injuries, etc. Like, it's incredible that he's even here already. But I think we forget that he's 23. Him going down and instantly hitting a home run in his second game back down there, third game back down there. Yeah. That's huge. Get the confidence up. I need to see I should say this. He needs to see the ball go through the hoop. And it's a basketball analogy, but he just needs to see the ball fly over the fence. See it a couple times. Oh, yeah, I can dominate these dudes down here. Let me back up there, and now I feel like myself again.
I wonder, though, if the hand has really become the issue with his power, because we went through a similar injury last season, and that curtailed his offense for pretty much the entire year. He goes through it again this year. He's only at 3 home runs on the season. He's got to, catch pitches with the same hand that he got hit with. Like, how is he really fully 100% healed in that hand? Is this something, this issue, is this hand issue going to be a chronic problem that is going to change the trajectory of what we thought he could be as a power hitter?
That is the question. That injury is known to be problematic for people. I forget who. Didn't someone on the Yankees have that last year? The hamate? And I forget, it completely lost. Nah, it wasn't Rizzo. Rizzo had a bunch of other crap going on, but he had a wrist thing last year. I forget. But all the power that you have.
Same thing though with the wrist. That's
right. It's the same concept, I guess. And like you said, it's the catching hand for him, constantly just 95, 95, 95, 95, right in his hand that hurts. It definitely has an effect. So I think that him going down, getting healthier, seeing the confidence go up. Think about MLB The Show. When your pitcher's confidence meter's down, man, they're not throwing sharp pitches. He hasn't been playing sharp anything because his confidence is down. His defense looked worse. His throwing to second base and third base looked worse. Obviously, he had no approach at the plate. So this is good for him. I'm not one of these guys that means, Alvarez is down. He's never coming back. He's done. He's cooked. I'm never going to see him again. I expect to see him again soon. I not like next week necessarily, but maybe right before All-Star break, right after All-Star break, because the best version of this team in this lineup still has Francisco Alvarez in it. I know Torrens has had really nice moments this year. He's very solid, but his ceiling seems to be good backup, okay starter. Alvarez's ceiling is still good starter, and you need that.
Yeah, absolutely. They also sent down Luis Angel Acuna, as I mentioned, 241. He was batting, had no home runs, 6 RBIs, 11 stolen bases, but a 576 OPS, which is not really good at all. Do you think Acuna got sent down should have got sent down as quick as he did? I was under the impression that they were going to hold on to him and send down Ronnie Mauricio just because of the defense that he had, the speed he provided to help score the runs that the Mets were at least scoring. I thought it was more important to keep him up here and let Ronnie still, rehab. He wasn't supposed to be here if it wasn't for Mark Vientos' injury. They had to bring him up early. They had nobody else. They had Jared Young playing, and he doesn't really provide much. So I thought for sure it was going to be Mauricio going down, and they were going to keep Acuna for defense and speed.
I'm torn because I do love that this team is committing to Mauricio in a way right now. Like they're giving him a leash to kind of play different positions, to get in the lineup a lot, because we all know the talent that dude has, and also his defense is good enough. That arm that he has from third base is insane. Frankly, you watch him make a throw from third base, it's effortless and it's on a line. It's a BB across the diamond. So I'm not upset because Mauricio's still up and Acuna's down. The one thing I'm missing Acuna on, and we talked about this before we started recording, he's a spark guy for this team. And right now they're missing spark guys. I wouldn't call Acuna a guy with big balls like someone else we're going to talk about in a little bit, who the Mets are missing desperately right now. But Acuna's a dude who gets out there, and he could either make an incredible play in the field. If he gets on base, he can steal a bag. He can take that little single and get from first to third, from second to home. And the Mets are missing things like that right now. They're kind of a slow team, depending on, unless you have Mauricio out there on the bases, which he hasn't been getting on the bases very much. They're kind of slow. That's not good for a team that's struggling to hit the ball with consistency. You kind of need to have other ways to manufacture things, and speed is usually a great way to do that. So that's why I miss Acuna, and obviously he's just an incredible defender.
Back in 2022, the Mets did not want to trade any of these guys at the trade deadline in a pennant race that this team was taking off in. The options were very limited on who they could get. Brandon Drury was available. It wasn't big options that they could get, but something that could have helped them possibly go into a deep run in the postseason, and that didn't happen. Do you think that the baby Mets would have struggled as much as they have with the hype that's been surrounding them since 2022?
You mean like if they came up earlier, or you mean just that pressure?
I think it's the pressure, because I don't know if they feel like they have to be the saviors of the team.
Yeah.
When we have Soto, Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, that's really the core and the heart of the team.
I think Vientos felt that for sure. I think he's still feeling it. I think if you point to any of them, he's the guy, and that's because he probably felt like this as well as all of us Mets fans did, that he graduated from baby Mets camp, right? After what he did last year in the second half of the season, and he in the playoffs was an absolute monster. We're looking at the lines on DraftKings and FanDuel, and they're saying his over-under for home runs is 26, 27 and a half, and that's kind of the higher end numbers there. It was really like 24, 25. But even still, for a guy who never played a full season to have that type of number in the sports books, not that he's checking that stuff, but, from our perspective, we're expecting him to do big things. We're like, dude, he is the last piece of this lineup that's going to go. It's going to be Lindor, Soto, Alonso, and Vientos. He's here. And he definitely felt that pressure. You can see it at the plate. He looked a little slow, a little late on stuff, which I think is a trend for all these hitters right now who are struggling. So he felt the pressure for sure. The other guys, I think they're more internal pressure on themselves is what they're feeling, because they haven't been expected to be awesome just yet. They're expected to make it. And right now they're still on the fringe of making it. All those dudes, right? Like all these dudes have been up and down from the majors right now. But you can actually see them going down and staying down for a while. And that's a scary thing as a player. And I feel like it puts pressure on people. Beatty's been dealing it with for a year now. And now Mauricio and Acuna are really getting their first taste of it. So yeah, I think it's internal pressure on those guys, and Vientos absolutely external pressure.
I'm glad you brought up Vientos, because, you go back to 2022 and he was kind of really the afterthought. There was always he out of the three of them, he probably could provide most of the power, but there's no position for him. He's not really a third baseman. He doesn't play first base. They throw him in the outfield. I think he came up as a shortstop at the time. Lindor's playing short. And, he was kind of the afterthought with Francisco Alvarez being the number one prospect on MLB Pipeline in all of baseball. Beatty was above him and got an opportunity first, and then he comes up, he has his struggles. They bring him up in 2024. He has kind of a good week. They send him back down. And that's after he did not earn the DH spot, which he thought was going to be given to him after they had signed JD Martinez to take over that role. I feel like Vientos needs to be pushed to get himself going. That kind of got helped with Francisco Lindor, showing him how to play third base, showing him how to play the infield. And after he had that run he did in 2024, where he was able to adjust and not have these slumps that he's having now, and then he had the postseason that he had last year, which is probably one of the best offensive postseasons in Mets history, maybe he got a little bit too cocky for his own well-being. And now he is seeing what happens when you have that sophomore slump.
Yeah, and shouts to G Money Stacks in the chat, because what he just said is a beautiful thing in the comments on YouTube if you're on there. The mental gymnastics that you have to play as a baseball player for 162, especially as a young dude, right? Like, I don't think we're worried about Francisco Lindor. He is tried and true, and we understand that he's going to have a slump at some point, and he's probably going to get back to track. Guys who are young, who haven't done this year after year, it is difficult. And in a weird way, him going to the IL for, what was it, 2.5, 3 weeks, something like that, perhaps that's something that could help him reset. And I know he struggled his first game or two back so far, looking late, looking a little bit lost at the plate for his, his first return, but that's okay, right? But he had that time to sit back, to watch the team from afar, to get healthy, to get right. And I think him missing some time could end up being a positive for him. And frankly, this team needs him to add a spark to this offense. At some point, we can sit here and talk about, oh, this guy, we need him to do this, we need this guy to do that. This team needs to show some balls, and that's it. Yeah. Right now, they are they are void of balls on this team. It's a weird way to say it right now. But when Lindor's not doing his thing at the highest level, he's kind of the engine. I'm trying to think of the right term, but he's the emotional leader of this team. Even if Soto's going to end up being the best player, even if Pete's going to end up with more RBIs and more home runs and maybe even a better average this year, it starts and ends with Lindor. So if he's not doing his thing offensively, you need someone to step the hell up. And I know it's a really simple, annoying way to say it, but you need someone to come in there and spark this thing. And if Vientos can have a stretch, one series where he puts out 2 home runs and a double, maybe a clutch hit. How about that? A clutch hit for someone on this team, man. That would feel pretty fun. That's seemingly what they need. We thought those 2 wins in Atlanta against Atlanta at the end of that series was going to be momentous. I made a TikTok about it, and I got egg on my face because I thought that was a turnaround moment. And you go into Pittsburgh and get smoked 2 times? Are you kidding me? So, yeah, this team needs something that's going to be a special win. It's going to be a comeback where they actually get back-to-back hits with someone in scoring position, like this crazy concept. It seems like they can only do one thing at a time right now, and they need someone with some balls to step up and make something happen.
Yeah, it's June. This team's still having trouble generating runs, and a lot of strain has been put on this pitching staff. So something has to be figured out with this offense. And we talked about it, off air, of how important Jesse Winker has been to this team. This season, 239, had a homer and 10 RBIs, but he begins his rehab assignment with the Brooklyn Cyclones on Sunday. And hopefully when he returns, he gives a little bit of life to this team. We saw what he did in the postseason. We saw the emotions that he has, and even against the Mets. I mean, we couldn't stand him, but if there was an opportunity to trade for him, I would always want to bring him in, because he just has that. He has that emotion that has been, I thought, was missing even from last year's team. As much as I love the core guys, there's something missing from that emotion that Jesse Winker just brings to this lineup and to this roster. you even see him. They're always showing him in the dugout. Anytime anything big happens, you're seeing he's one of the first
Right.
people on the top step of the dugout. It's so important to have a guy like Jesse Winker on this team, and I think he has been missing a big part of this why this roster has been just off.
Yeah, and I think the word I want to use is gumption. There you go. That was the word I was reaching for before. Jesse Winker got some gumption to him. He comes out there, he thinks he's the best player on the field, even if he's not even remotely close to being the best. That's how he carries himself. And sometimes you need a little irrational confidence during a 162 game season. I was having this conversation with our boy Hector Beauchamp on TU Allen Friends on Thursday night, where we were stuck between that rock and a hard place, right? Where we were talking about the Yankees and them giving Jason Dominguez a day off after his best game of the year, Volpe a day off after his best game of the year. And we're talking about momentum, right? Is momentum a real thing? It's a big argument in the world of baseball, especially because so many teams say, momentum, momentum. We care about the aggregate. We care about 162. We care about our numbers, etc. We don't believe in hot streaks, right? That's something you hear from some of these analytical teams. To me, you have to find the balance between that. I totally am for the idea of the aggregate. I love the idea of players having their chances to kind of work through things and get to their baseline, get to the back of their baseball card. But in the moment, on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, or a Tuesday in June or July, you need that little bit of irrational confidence. You need that bit of gumption in this lineup. And Jesse Winker, for all that he does, that's great. And all that he does, that's pretty average, frankly. He's not this incredible player. He shows up to that lineup and you don't know what he's going to bring to the table. And that's a good thing. You need that in a lineup sometimes, because in 162, when it's 90 degrees out, you need some people who are going to go out there and spark this thing. You need somebody to stretch out what should be a single into a double and do the little hand gestures that they do, whatever the heck they do over there at second base, and get the people going, man. You know, that game they hit 7 home runs, right, a couple weeks ago against Philly, where we thought that was another turning point for this team. You're telling me that seeing 2 home runs didn't help 3 go out, then 4 go out, and then 5 go out? It absolutely has momentum in these moments. And maybe over the course of 162, I do lean to analytics a little bit, right? But right now, you look at the stats, Ant, and they'll lie to you. Because right now, you look at the team stats across Major League Baseball right now, and guess who has the hardest hit percentage, the best hardest hit percentage in all of baseball right now? It's the New York Mets. They have the number 1 hard hit percentage in all of baseball at 45.9%. That's higher than the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Dodgers, the Phillies, everybody. It doesn't feel like that in the slightest bit right now, and that's because they're unable to be clutch, and they're unable to make extra things happen outside of whatever they think is their aggregate.
Yeah, before I came on the show, I went through the stats for all the teams, and the Mets are up there. Batting average, slugging percentage, OPS. The only thing where they lack is with runners in scoring position. All of the other stats are fantastic. It's great. But if you can't bring those runs in, you're not going to win games. And you're putting pressure on a pitching staff that is pretty much overworked and is dealing with a ton of injuries. And it just hurts. Armand in the chat talking about the Pirates over the first 2 games of the series have scored a combined 19 runs against the Mets, where they have only averaged 3.3 runs throughout the entire season. You know, we always talk about Atlanta being a house of horrors. PNC Park is a house of horrors for the New York Mets. For the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years, they have struggled at PNC Park. As beautiful as it is, I don't know if I can go see the Mets play over there and watch one of those debacles that we've seen. There's been many of them. I don't know if I could go watch it.
No, and it stinks. I know so many Mets fans are definitely, out there in Pittsburgh right now. Oh, we're going to take a great trip at the Pittsburgh. What a beautiful park. The stadium's nice. Everyone loves PNC, right? And you go out there and the team stinks. But I don't know if there's some weird thing going on there. I know Armand threw those stats out. They're absolutely insane. The fact that the Pirates have been hitting so well. And you didn't even see Skeens in these first 2 games. And you can't score runs. I know Mitch Keller has had some good numbers against the Mets in his career and et cetera. He's been a fine pitcher this year. I got him on both my fantasy teams. So I know that he's been fine this year. But that's a dude you got to take advantage of. And against teams like Pittsburgh, you have to go in there and dominate. I mean, the Yankees have been doing this for years and years and years. They just beat the teams they're supposed to beat, right? And it
Yeah.
sounds so simple. It sounds kind of elementary, if you will. But if you go out there and you start fast, which thankfully the Mets did, and then you take care of business against teams you're supposed to beat, you're going to be in a great position, right? If you struggle against the Phillies in a series here or the Braves in a series there, you'll deal with it. It's tough. Those are good teams. If you go out there and lose to a Dodgers team or a Padres team, okay, it happens. You go lose to the Pirates and the Rockies and teams in that ilk of Major League Baseball, and it's a different beast of struggles, and it makes you feel even worse, and you can't let that compound.
No, you can't. And this has been a struggle that the Mets have had for a long time. Unable to have a sweep against a lowly Marlins team or the Washington Nationals. You met Pirates, Reds. There's so many teams that have struggled. The Rockies they struggled to play against, and that separates you from being the top of the top contenders because you got to take care of these teams, and that they're just not doing it. Before we wrap up the talk on the offense, want to get to some of the chat. We have over 100 people in this room right now. Appreciate every single one of you for being a part of it. Like Ron Rivera says, hit that like and hit that subscribe. I think we are 3 away from 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you subscribe to Subway to Shea. Make sure you're also subscribing to Subway Sports Talk as well as Uptown Sports TV, where you can catch TOL and Friends as well. And look, some of the chat here talking about the offense and game for war says that he sees too many hard hit ground ball outs, and I think that goes with what you were saying earlier. Hard hits don't matter if they go straight into someone's glove, which is true. I mean, we always hear about exit velocity and how hard this player is hitting, but if Pete Alonso's exit velocity is one of the best, but that ball doesn't go over the fence, I mean, how much does it really matter at the end of the day? I think also it was not G Money Stacks. We'll get to that comment a little later. I saved that for us here. But yeah, the offense has been struggling to just score with runners in scoring position, and they really got to get themselves going. I think it was D in the chat who's saying he loves Tyrone Taylor's defense, but has been killing us at the plate. We need better. That's 6 through 9, like as we mentioned earlier, has been such a killer for this offense, and it leads to my next topic here, because they have been killing this pitching staff. The Mets pitching staff is completely overworked. Another injury to the starting rotation. 4 out of the 5 pitchers in this rotation now have suffered injuries, and none other now, the biggest one, Griffin Canning, out for the season with a ruptured left Achilles. He suffered the injury Thursday versus the Braves. Even in victories for the Mets, like even as they get going, right? They won the last 2 games of the Braves series. You have high hopes going into Pittsburgh, and then a huge injury. You could see in the dugout how that affected the team, losing Griffin Canning, and he was so huge for this team. In the same fashion, I don't know if you mentioned, if you remember Mike Soroka and the injury that he sustained for the Braves, similar. Kind of getting off of the mound, and you could just see, I don't know if you saw the video, someone did a close-up, shout out to whoever did that, but the close-up of that Achilles just popping out. Suffered that in the 3rd inning, trying to get off the mound, and really, like I said, it really took the air out of the stadium, out of the dugout in the clubhouse. He was having a really good season, 7-3, 3.77 ERA was best start of his career, and really an integral start to this Mets hot start. Manaya, Montas, Senga, McGill, now Canning. I mean, it's just been a rough go for this rotation.
Yeah, and Canning so specifically with being a pedigree guy, right? He's a guy who came in as a high draft pick, who had struggles, who seemed like he was one of these guys who was going to get 1 or 2 more chances, and if it didn't work, he was about to be done, right? Like he was on that trajectory where, he wasn't going to be a successful pitcher at the major leagues. And then he comes into New York and pitches his best baseball of his career, and he's a great, guy at the end of that rotation who is just there every 5 days. It's so important to have the same guys out there, even if they're okay, right? Like no one on this staff was insanely incredible. No one was showing up in the Cy Young conversation. Maybe Senga, some people, especially Mets fans, are putting him there, but I know technically he was kind of not as close to some of the other top tier guys. But having those same guys come out every 5 days is so huge. And for Canning, who has rehabilitated his career, has seemed like he found a home here in New York. To have that injury absolutely stings. And then you see, the video, and it's so close to home because we just saw it with Dame Lillard and Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton on the big stages of the NBA playoffs. To see one in baseball, you're just like, oh my God, how many of these things do we have to watch in the year 2025? And it just absolutely took the air out, like you said. And now the Mets pitching staff has even more question marks because of all these injuries. And never did I ever believe that Sean Manaea's return was going to be this paramount to this team's success. And now there's pressure on this dude, right? Like, we were all looking at Manaea as somebody to come in and be a true number 2/number 1. Like, him and Senga were 1A, 1B. Neither of them are like number 1s, but they're both like on the border of that. Now he's going to come back and be relied upon right away. Frankie Montas, only 1 start so far, not too shabby. He's relied upon to be really good again. And it changes the math. To me, pitching staff is all about the math of it all. Like when Edwin Diaz got hurt 2 years ago and he missed the entire season, that derailed this entire bullpen, right? Because now you have to move somebody to 9. The 8th guy or the 7th guy got to go to 8. The 6 and 7 guys got to take care of 7 and 8. And it just creates this trickle down effect, this domino effect of not as much strength throughout, I guess, right? And now we're feeling that in the rotation. It's been a strength so far this season. It's been a blessing. It's been a pleasant surprise. And now, this stress that we're feeling for the pitching staff, which hasn't blown up on its head yet outside of the last 2 days or a couple bad starts, whatever, against Atlanta and Philly, it's now feeling like a pressure point. It's feeling like something that could actually hurt them for an extended period of time. And never did I ever believe, 2 years ago when they got Manaea for the first time, that we'd be praying for his return, because otherwise we feel screwed.
And even with Manaea returning, he just had another setback where he had to get shut down for 48 hours because of loose bodies in his elbow. Like, we can't catch a break with any of these guys right now. And I know some people are like, oh, well, that's because they didn't go after any of the big starting pitchers, which, I get it. But if they would have went after Corbin Burns, now they're on the hook for that amount of money, and he's now having Tommy John surgery. This allows the Mets, this kind of these moves that David Stearns has been doing allows the Mets, I guess, the freeway to make other starting pitching moves later on down the line. He wants to get guys that are young. They're going to pay for guys that are like 25, 26 if they can. That's why they tried doing with Yamamoto a couple years ago. That was under David Stearns' watch. They just couldn't get him. He wanted to go to the Dodgers. But if it's a young pitcher, if it's, I assume, like a Paul Skeens or Sandy Alcantara, they're going to be going after those guys. Right now, they just have the middling of the road type players. They're hoping that some of the guys from AAA pan out. They have Blade Tidwell now that's going to be in the rotation, although, he got lit up in his relief appearance against the Pirates and hasn't been at all impressive. You mentioned Frankie Montas pitched 5 shutout innings against the Atlanta Braves at 5 strikeouts. They even found a way to blow that game. What did you take away from Montas's first start?
You know what? I Montas for me is a strange cat because, and this is going to be very personal to me here, because I had him on my fantasy team last year, right? So, when it comes to us being Mets fans, we're tapped into some other teams, but I'm not like watching Montas starts in the past, like when he's with, Philly and then Milwaukee, but I'm following him because he's on my fantasy team. I'm like, this guy's terrible. Jeez, the only reason he's on my team is because I punted on saves because I had no relievers, but he's reliever/starter. So I'm just rolling him out there, getting the innings, whatever. And then all of a sudden, second half of the year last year, he gets traded. It's like, this guy's good again. This is awesome. This is great. We're fine. Now I'm tapped in. I'm like, now the Mets got Montas. I feel pretty good about this guy right now. So I feel good. I don't feel great. I think, but as long as he's a guy who can go 5 to 6 innings at a reasonable number, I'll be happy. So I'm not setting the bar for Frankie Montas super duper high. I'm setting it at that 4-level starter. I think the idea of the innings eater in baseball has not been a popular thing anymore. Like when we were growing up, early 2000s especially, there was always these guys who were like the 4th starter, and they were okay, right? Their ERA would be a 4.3, a 4.5, but they were going 6 innings every day. That doesn't exist that much in baseball anymore. And I forget who just said it in the chat. I think it was Duran, about when you can't go deep as a starter, you are just putting stress in the bullpen, and then the bullpen's putting more stress in the bullpen. And again, that domino effect I just mentioned, like when Edwin Diaz got hurt 2 years ago, that's a real thing, right? So all these guys in the bullpen who had started off nicely, Brazoban comes to mind. He's now, you have no idea what you're going to get. Reed Garrett has great numbers for the year so far, but I feel like right now I don't know what I'm getting from him when he goes out there. We do have the injuries in the pen as well. So can Montas just simply be a guy who gets into the 6th inning every day? He might give up 3 or 4 runs. That's okay. Because I think we all agree that with this rotation, they've put the team on their back so far this year. And now the offense needs to put the team on the back a little bit. And a guy like Montas just needs to be a guy who does well enough to allow the offense to win some games. And that's my expectation with him. And I feel like going in with that mindset, I can't get too hurt from Frankie Montas.
The problem with the rotation is that, without having that ace type pitcher that the Mets really don't have, I don't know how much you would include Senga in that. I mean, he does have ace type stuff, but without having that, you have a bunch of 2s and 3s, right? And Frankie Montas is now being asked to be a number 2 when he should be a number 5. And Clay Holmes is just starting to be a starting pitcher. So now you're asking him to be a 2. And it just is taking a toll and a strain. We don't know how much longer Clay Holmes is gonna start for the season. People complain about his innings limit and his pitch count, and they're trying to stretch him out so he can last an entire season without having to put him in the bullpen. You got Frankie Montas just coming back. Who knows? Sean Manaea, to me, is not going to be the same as he was last year with all the injuries that he's been dealing with this season, and now the issue with the elbow. So it's really a struggle for the bullpen, as Duran Rivera put. Brazoban has been lit up the last couple of outings. Garrett having the same problem he did last year, where they use these guys so much because you're not getting length out of the starters. And now by the time June and July comes, these guys are shelved themselves. And now you got to bring in other bodies like they did Ryan Stanek and Phil Maton last year.
I think Daniel Nunez coming back and looking pretty good is huge, right? Like
Budo as well.
And him and Buto, if you want to find a positive over the last week or two, those are the 2 guys that you point to because they're super important right now, right? You need these guys. Brazoban is not an awesome pitcher, frankly. Like, he's just not. That's okay, right? Like, he should be who he is, and him coming out being lights out is not reality. Him being solid, yes, we can lean on that, but he's going to have bad outings. He's going to have some issues here and there. He couldn't be, or he shouldn't be, this insanely relied upon guy in this bullpen. And Nunez could be that guy. Buto can be that guy. They've been really good. So yeah. Well, real quick, I do want to say this because before I just grabbed my phone, I wasn't subscribed to Subway to Shea on my personal YouTube account. So I just subscribed. I was subscribed on Subway Sports. So I got 2 YouTube accounts, but so now you're only 2 away from 1,000.
Oh,
if my math is correct.
You
said
going.
3 away. It looks like you're 2 away. So if you're out there and you're watching this on Twitter, you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to Subway to Shea. Get this man to 1,000. He deserves it. Come on, let's go.
I appreciate that. G Money Stacks in the chat. Something very important that he's saying here. When the New York Mets lose the important piece, like Kodai saying it to Andrea, it's like losing a piece of an identity. Yeah. And I got to agree with this, especially the way that Kodai Senga went down. Freak injury, kind of self-inflicted, thanks to Pete Alonso there. And I know Pete Alonso took that hit on the chin there. And, it sucks to lose a guy that was pitching so well for this team. And he's really pitched well ever since becoming a New York Met, and to have him at the top of the rotation, wanting to be here, wanting to pitch in New York, it sucks not having him. Thankfully, it's not a season-ending injury, and hopefully he'll be back for the playoff run, I guess.
Did I not see recently that he is like looking pretty good, where he's going to be coming back like sooner than we thought? Is that something I saw?
Yes, I thought I saw something this past week.
He's starting a rehab assignment like next week or something like that?
I don't know if he's starting a rehab assignment next week, but I know that he's ahead of schedule.
Yes.
June, and
June
he's very
23rd.
particular about his he's very particular about his rehab and making sure that he's 100% before he gets back on the mound.
Yeah, I saw something. I forget. I'm trying to find it now. I can't find it, but that's all right. I'm pretty sure that he is hoping to be cleared to throw off a mound like within the next couple days or week or something like that. So, the Senga thing getting him back is enormous, right? Because, call him a 1, call him a 2, call him whatever you want. I don't really care what we call him. He's paramount to this rotation. He goes out there, and every time he's been out there healthy pitching, he's been good. Talk about the availability? Sure. Talk about the depth into games? Sure. When he's on the mound, he's been good. The Mets need him desperately. So if he is ahead of schedule and throwing off a mound sooner than we expected, man, that's all a beautiful thing.
Jeff Cohen in the chat saying, "Is it time to panic?" And there was a couple of people in the chat asking that question as well, but I don't know if it's that time just yet. You still have Minaya coming back. Singh is going to come back. Brooks Raley's going to come back after the All-Star break, and that's a big lefty to have out of the bullpen. He's been pitching very well in his rehab assignment, so I don't know if it's time to panic. I think of this, is it more time to make a move now before the trade deadline? And we've seen David Stearns do that, where he tinkers around and gets a bullpen piece here and a bench spot here. Should they call up Nolan McLean from AAA Syracuse? He's 5-5 this season, but he's got a 2.25 ERA. He's been pretty outstanding, 75 strikeouts in 76 innings pitched. What do you think that the Mets should do here? Is it time to panic?
No, it's not time to panic yet. It's almost like if you can compartmentalize, like, sure, have some panic in this week or so, like internally, but it's not time to externally panic. I don't think I should say this. If you expect the team to do something that has panic written all over it, I think you're mistaken, right? I don't think David Stearns, it's not his MO to go out there and trade for this, well-known established name that is going to have a lot of years on his contract. Like the idea of Jacob deGrom. I know Mets fans probably don't expect to get him, but no, it's out there that he could be available, right? I would love to see him back in a Mets uniform. It's just not David Stearns' MO to trade for somebody at that age with that many years on his contract. It's just not. I mean, we could freaking bat Jacob deGrom at DH. He'll hit just as good as the DH has been hitting so far this year for the Mets, but that's not going to happen. I would expect marginal moves. This guy has made his money and his name off of finagling a rotation and a bullpen. He's going to do that. So I think there's moves out there. None of them are going to be splashy. So I don't think it's going to be splashy. If David Stearns is not panicking, I'm not panicking. We can't, as fans, go into this season in David Stearns we trust, in the pitching lab we trust, in Steve Cohen we trust, in this roster we trust, and then sit here still double-digit games above 500 and panic. There's a saying that I love in baseball where it's you can't win the season in April and May, but you can lose it. And the Mets have the luxury now, Ant, where they did not lose the season in April and May. In fact, they put themselves in an incredible, incredible spot to succeed this year. And that's why this June, which in the aggregate is about 500 baseball, because they were really good at the beginning of June, it's okay, right? If this continues for 2-3 more weeks, all the way up to the All-Star break and beyond, then yeah, let's panic. But right now, double-digit games above 500, still teetering back and forth with the Phillies at the top of the NL East. We're okay right now. We're okay right now. We can't panic, because if you're panicking, then you're not appreciating what has taken place for this team for the entirety of this season so far. So I'm not hitting the panic button, but I know where it is. I opened the drawer. I made sure the panic button's in there. I maybe have ran a test run. I used the test button on the bottom to make sure it works, but I'm putting the drawer. I'm closing it up. It's okay. I'm not panicking just yet, but I will panic maybe day to day. But overall, no panic from Pete Kennedy.
Daniel Caps in the chat. I kind of agree with this. You want to do something before you start falling, 5, 4, 3, 2 games above 500. Right now, the Mets have the luxury of being 12. It's crazy. This run, they're lost 12 of their last 15, but they're still 12 games over 500, a half game out of first place. They can easily turn this around. They just need to get focused.
It could be as simple as one series. Who do they have again after the Pirates? They have the Diamondbacks.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Where did I see Diamondbacks from? Jeez. If they go out there and win, they play in about a few hours here, 1:30 against the Pirates. If they win today, Montas goes out and pitches pretty well. And then you take 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee. You go into the Subway Series next weekend and you say, all right, we're okay. Everybody relax. Let's go beat the freaking Yankees. Let's have some fun. Let's remember that baseball can be fun again. And then we relax. We need that desperately, right? But it starts with beating the Pirates. You cannot get swept by a team like the Pirates. And then you win a series against Milwaukee and you get to take a deep breath. It's very simple. This has been about as bad as it can be for about 2.5 weeks now, ever since that Tampa Bay series started off. But if you remember right before that, they won 6 straight and took 2 out of 4 against the Dodgers. So it's not that long ago where they were playing good baseball. It's not that long ago since they beat Braves twice in a row, and we're like, okay, maybe we're coming back. So you need to win. You can't get swept against Pittsburgh, but it takes one series, Ant, to flip this thing around and to take a deep breath again.
I also agree with this comment from Daniel Caps. The schedule has something to do with this also. They literally were on a road trip to Atlanta, Philly, came home for 1 4-game series, goes to Pittsburgh, and now they're coming back home again to face Milwaukee and then the Yankees in the Subway Series. It always feels like, too, that the Subway Series, whichever the last one is always the turning point for one of these teams. I mean, both are coming in
true.
battered and bruised from both are having just a tough time this month of June. And it always seems to be a launch off point for one of these teams. One of these teams is going to go on a run after this Subway Series. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think last year, the Mets dominating the Yankees in the Subway Series was that point. So you got to hope that in our year 2025, it doesn't flip on its head and go the other direction here. But you're right. It always feels bigger than a regular series against the Yankees. And that's what we love about New York baseball. I know you and I are both guys who keep our tabs on the Yankees over there. My podcast, Subway Sports Talk, I talk about both Mets and Yankees. So I'm tapped in on that side as well. They're feeling just as weird as we are, right? I think that's something that we have to remember. I know the fans' confidence doesn't affect anything on the field, but a little bit to the effect that it does, because if Met fans are out in that stadium this weekend, screaming, going nuts, let's go Mets, beat the freaking Yankees, all that fun stuff, maybe it does seep onto the field a little bit here, right? But the Yankees are in this same exact position. They feel like crap right now. Judge has not been hitting. They're getting weird production numbers from their entire lineup where it's no consistency, and then a couple of them hit a couple home runs, and they go, wait, is this guy great? Is Trent Grisham awesome? It's like, nah, he's okay, right? Like, he's okay. And it's another thing where the stats kind of lie to you a little bit. You look at the aggregate of the stats for the New York Yankees and you go, oh, Ben Rice has been pretty good. Oh, Grisham has been pretty good. But in totality, in a day-to-day basis, they haven't been very good from an offensive perspective, and they're still chilling in the AL. And I know the AL East is not as good as the NL East right now, with the top 3 at least, with the Braves kind of coming back to earth and being a good team again. So, I get the panic a little bit. I get the idea of feeling the stress of the season right now. And I know someone in the chat said that you should panic because they're only 12 games above 500. I'm saying that you should not panic because they're still 12 games above 500 with the worst stretch of baseball we've seen them play in years. So no miracles needed. No Hardy Boys Mets, which only lasted one day, which is a funny
Grimace,
thing.
Rally Pimp, OMG.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe something pops up in the next few weeks and we get a random new little thing to rally behind, but the Mets shouldn't need that. They've graduated from that. They're graduating slowly from the gimmicks and from this weird stuff that they have to do to get energy around this place. And I think they right this ship soon. And I'm hoping it starts today at 1:30.
Some more shout outs to the chat here. We got 189 of you guys in the room right now. Duran Rivera saying you had a great point. They could turn it all around today.
Thank you, Duran.
And make this a significant run for this team. Also, Nelson Cruz with a comment, playing in this town is unlike anywhere else. Self-inflicted pressure is my only conclusion for this collapse. And that can go for both teams.
Yeah, for sure. The shout out to the chat, man. You guys are awesome. And Rally Pimp was cool. The gimmicks are fun. And I think Mets fans do a good job, and especially when the Yankee fans, we're all Mets fans here, right? We can speak freely. When the Yankee fans try to come in here and be like, oh, the Mets, you guys are so freaking lame. You need all these stupid gimmicks to do this. And what? Shut up, Yankee fans. I don't want to hear it from you and your stupid buttoned up, just got a beard ass team. Like, screw all that. I don't want to hear it.
Don't they have the guys that clean the dirt? Don't they do YMCA in the 7th inning? Come on.
They're doing a dance on the field during the game. Are you kidding me? So yeah, miss me with all the hate towards Mets fans for us having fun with silly little things. But if you didn't see a Grimace meme last year and chuckle, you're doing sports wrong, man. Right?
Yeah.
Come on, you're doing it wrong. We're having fun over here. I don't want to rely upon gimmicks, but when we get one that I think is kind of funny, I'm all for it. Come on, let's have some fun. We need some fun on this team. That's why we need Winker back, baby. Come on.
Absolutely. Yamid Medina saying the Dodgers got swept by the Pirates last year. You can get swept by any team except the White Sox or the Rockies. So there you go. As we change a little bit of focus here, we're going to get into what should the Mets focus on at the trade deadline. Starting pitching, relief pitching, hitting. I say all three if you could figure out a way to make something work here. But for your purposes, rank the categories here. What is the most need to the least of the needs?
My number one need would be one more starting pitcher. I don't think they're going to go and get multiple. I think you get one more guy who's a professional pitcher in that rotation. I think the idea of the Mets trading for an ace, I don't want to even throw it out there because I just don't think it's what the Mets are going to do. Right. And understanding how David Stearns works as a fan, I think is important to set your own expectations. Because I know people online, people in the chat right now are saying, we need an ace, we need an ace, we need an ace. Aces don't grow on trees, man. Like most teams don't even have an ace, frankly, if we're talking about a true ace. So I think a 2-3-ish starter to add to this mix here of Clay Holmes and Montas and hopefully Senga when he gets back and Minaya, I wouldn't call any of those guys aces. But when they're a solid number 2 or a good number 3, that helps a ton. So I think one more starting pitcher is huge for me. And I do kind of want to see them get one more batter into this mix right now. I know they're kind of trying to give all these young guys a shot right now. I don't even care which position this guy's going to play. I know the Cedric Mullins idea is thrown out there a lot. I like that. As much as I like Tyrone Taylor, he's a fourth outfielder, and Mullins is a great center fielder defensively who at least has some pop, right? So somebody who can turn a game around by himself would be my second hope on this deadline. So I'd say starting pitcher 1 and then some other bat, preferably an outfielder, I'm assuming a center fielder. And that's kind of what I'm expecting and hoping to see. And I think the bullpen is just like, chalk it up. David Stearns, as long as he's able and the deadline's still available, will be looking to add bullpen arms. None of them are going to be like, oh my gosh, we just got a guy who had 50 saves last year. Like that's not going to happen, but he's just going to add little piece, little piece, little piece. I'll put that as number 3. It's always number 3. Stearns will always add bullpen arms, and none of them are going to knock our socks off, but some of them might just catch fire.
Yeah. I mean, Stanek had a rough start coming in here, whereas Phil Maton lit it up and was really important to getting into the postseason. Then Maton turned into a pumpkin, and Stanek pitched well in the postseason. So it'll even itself out for this team here. When I talk about center field, my good friend Keith from the Shea and Sons podcast mentioned Byron Buxton. What do you think about maybe trading for a guy like Byron Buxton?
What's that going to cost would be my question, because isn't he having another really good year?
He's
like almost at 20 home runs, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what he's batting from an average perspective, OPS perspective, but I mean, I would love to see Byron Buxton in this lineup, right? One more guy. We're talking about juice. That's a guy with juice. That's a guy who gets on up to the plate and you don't know what's going to happen. I liken Jazz Chisholm to this type of dude where you look at his stats and you go, oh, why do I hear about this guy so much? His stats aren't that special. But when he's out there and he's healthy, you are seeing like special things happen around him. And because of his energy and his ability to hit the ball over the fence, his ability to steal a bag, his ability to stretch into a double or triple, like Buxton's that dude, right? Probably by a wider margin because he's a much better player overall from the statistics. So yeah, I'd love him. I just wouldn't get a high expectation because again, I don't think it's David Stearns' MO to go out there and trade for a Buxton and give up, some of these guys who they really rely on in the minors who they project to be huge parts of this team.
With the talk about the aces, Armand in the chat saying aces get traded in the offseason. If an ace gets traded at the deadline, it's similar to what happened between Devers and the Red Sox. Daniel Cap saying he agrees that we need another bat to help Soto, but he's just not enough. Peter saying that Stearns needs to change the way he thinks as well. And Duran Rivera saying, to me, a true ace is Skeens and Skubal and maybe DeGrom at his advanced age.
Listen, Jacob deGrom. I'd love it. I'd love it. It would make me so happy, Ant. I don't know how you feel about that. I would be ecstatic to watch Jacob deGrom pitch in a Mets uniform again. I just don't see it. Maybe, though, how about another former Met pitcher who has just been shoving since he left here as a starting pitcher? Seth Lugo? The Royals absolutely stink right now, Ant. And Seth Lugo has been a monster since
As
he
a
became a
starter,
starter.
though.
As a starter. Yeah, as
Yeah,
a starter.
because
He's a freaking beast, dude. I want Lugo real bad. He's cheaper. His contract is not as long, which I think makes it more realistic for Stearns to pull that trigger. I would, if Seth Lugo becomes a Met again and he's in that rotation, I'd be pumped on that.
I wonder if David Stearns was here before Seth Lugo was let go in free agency, if he would have did the same work that he's now doing with Clay Holmes and let him be the starter. Because for some reason, the Mets didn't want him to be the starter. They already had a closer in Edwin Diaz, but they wanted him out of the bullpen because they did not have any bullpen arms and they wouldn't sign or trade for bullpen arms. So they kept Seth Lugo there, and he always wanted to be a starter. He was great in 2016, one of the key cogs in us getting into the postseason again, with all the injuries that we had to DeGrom and everyone that got hurt. And you had Lugo, Robert Gazelman at the time. Those guys came up and were starting and were great. And then all of a sudden they're like, let's just put him in the bullpen. And it was just not the same. He had a good 2019 where he had to close for Edwin Diaz, who was struggling. I think that Seth Lugo out of the rotation is probably the best move for if the Mets were going to make one for starting pitching.
Yeah, dude, Seth Lugo, man. I mean, we lose sight of guys who go into the American League, especially. He's been awesome, right? Like 2 years in a row as a starter, he's just been really freaking good. I think he led the league in maybe not in innings, but like batters faced or something last year. So 200 plus innings for Seth Lugo. He's a monster. I think if you get him back, that would be huge. Real quick though, because in the chat, Jess C and Armand talking about two important things. Armand dropped a bunch of stats in there for Buxton, so thank you for doing that. So we don't have to look it up. He's been raking this year: 286, 19 home runs, a 928 OPS, 153 OPS plus, which is just fantastic. And we know he plays a good center field. Obviously, injury concerns exist for Buxton, and his contract goes till 2028 with an AAV of 15 million. So that's very reasonable, frankly. But Jess C, something she brought up that we didn't talk about. I don't know if Jess could be a boy's name. I guess I should say he or she. Jose Siri, right? We didn't talk about him, and like he's a guy who was a part of this team for only about 2 weeks and then got hurt. His center field is insane. He's a ridiculous center fielder. He has pop. He has tons of speed. And in those 2 weeks, man, we saw him steal some runs, right? We saw him steal some runs, and that is another thing that this team needs. And, shame on us for talking about Winker and not Siri and how much we miss him possibly in this lineup and in the outfield. But I don't know what's his timeline, man. I don't think it's looking as good for Jose Siri, is it?
I don't know if it was this week or last week, because I feel like there's roster moves every week that we have to keep up with. I think Siri was put on the 60-day IL.
Yeah, I thought so too.
He's not coming.
He's
out. He had a setback. Yeah. I know he was running in the field. They showed him running and maybe taking a little bit of batting practice, but he had a huge setback. I don't even know, like even to what Armand's saying, I don't even think he's coming back this season. I would not count on him coming back.
Yes.
But yeah, his aura, I guess, right? His aura and his speed and defense is missing from this team.
I'm seeing here on RotoWire that it's still possible he could come back, but on the 60-day, who knows? I'm trying to find like a more recent article on this, but estimated return says July 18th, but I feel like that's not correct anymore. I feel like that has to be updated. So yeah, I don't know.
Before we wrap up the show, I want to discuss one thing. And what would a Mets season be like if we did not have an annual team player only meeting? The 2025 player team meeting took place on Saturday after the loss to the Pirates and what is now a lost series. As I mentioned, they always struggle in House of Horrors Part 2. This June swing has been crazy for this Mets, and up to 6 to 7 guys spoke out. Alonso, Lindor, Soto. I'm surprised to hear that Brandon Nimmo did not talk at this. I know a lot of people were posting that on X. And the team obviously was focusing on team cohesion, building each other up. Lindor talking about winning and turning it around, similar to last year's meeting. look, I want to get to the point with the Mets where they're not doing this every year. We can't be doing, if you're a good team, you can't be having team meetings every single year. There's no JD Martinez or Jose Iglesias, the elder statesmen of the group. There's none of that. We got to get to a point where this team is consistently good enough that they don't have to do, like, we talked about this off here. The Dodgers don't have to do this. The Yankees don't have to do this. The Mets have to get to a point where they're consistently good, beating these bad teams and not having, I know it's a 162 game season, but this is starting to get out of hand this month. And it's, I'm pretty sure it's frustrating for the players and the organization itself. This could all be avoided with the mistakes that they're making, whether it's, the pitching moves by the manager, player self-awareness on field and base paths, lack of clutch hitting. We talked about it all, even yesterday. And I know that G Money Stacks brought this up earlier on in the show, and I just wanted to save it with the rain delay and the way that Manaea handled Paul Blackburn. It was a 90-minute rain delay. I've never seen a starting pitcher come back from a 90-minute rain delay, and it showed. He gave up 5 straight hits. He ended up not even really pitching. They had to go to the bullpen.
Yeah, and Blackburn's a guy who, like, no offense to Paul Blackburn here, I don't think you need to, like, desperately reach for more Paul Blackburn innings if you don't have to, right? Like, you're kind of taking everything you get from him as icing on the cake. He ain't the cake, right? So I think that, they're trying, obviously, to save the bullpen, taking out that method of throwing out Paul Blackburn after the rain delay, but it didn't work, right? Like, that was probably their thought process. Oh, if we can get 3 more innings out of him, we can save some innings out of the bullpen there. But that was kind of crazy, if I must say. But one thing you didn't mention is Mendoza also showing some fire. Yes. First time getting thrown out of a game this season. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I think some people freak out when they hear about player meetings and stuff like that. They freak out when, the manager gets tossed from a game. There's been many coaches across many sports who do this on purpose. I mean, Aaron Boone does it too much. It's like annoying at this point. Like, you use it as a spark. It's like, yo, guys, I'm out here freaking out because I know we're better than this. We need to be better than this. And I'm going to go out there and fight for you. Go fight for me. Go fight for each other. And sometimes as a team, you need that little moment, that come to Jesus moment, that reality check moment where you look at each other in the eyes and say, no, we're better than this. We need to do better. We need to be more locked in from the moment we get into the ballpark, right? Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe there's a little bit of a lackadaisical feel, at BP in the mornings and when they're warming up and things like that. And they're a team that I think at their peak when they're playing well is having fun. They're doing gimmicks on the side. They're flipping water bottles. They're doing their hand gesture thing that they do last year with the wipe thing that they did. Like, that's all great. But guess what? When you're playing like crap, you don't want to do all this fun stuff anymore. You don't want to flip a water bottle. You don't want to do the handshakes and things like that. You need to find that balance. You need to refocus. I'm not one who's going to hear about a player meeting and go, oh my God, they're screwed. They're cooked, this and that. That's not the case. This is okay, right? They need this. The fact that they're doing this shows that they care. The fact that Lindor and Alonso are going to stand in front of that room, and Juan Soto especially too, going to stand in front of that room and say, hey, guys, we're good. I mean, granted, we don't know what they said, but we're good. We need to focus. We need to lock in. We need to maybe, get back to basics a little bit, whatever they're talking about in there. I'm saying until it doesn't work, I look at it as a positive, because that means that they care and they want to be together. They want to work through this and they want to get back on the right side of things.
Yeah, I agree. I just want them to get to a point where they don't have to do it anymore. I don't want to do this every year.
For sure.
Because
no, you're right.
You're right. I know it sparked them last year, and I'm pretty sure that's a part of why they're doing it now. And hopefully it gets them going. And as Daniel Cab says, time to get back to winning again. But man, you beat the bad teams. You're not doing this. Right. You're running the base pass correctly. You're not doing this. Making the right pitching moves. You're not doing this. There's a lot of self-inflicted wounds that this team has put upon themselves, defensively, offensively, on the base pass, that they can avoid. Like, there wouldn't be some of these issues, and there'd be more wins if they avoid some of these self-inflicted pains that they put on themselves. Look at that series in Atlanta. I don't
Mhm.
think the Braves beat us. No offense to the Braves, which I never count out, no matter what season it is.
Especially
The
with Acuna
Mets,
back. Jeez.
yeah, the Mets lost that series. The Braves didn't win that series. That's my big
Yeah.
takeaway from that. So,
No,
look,
I completely agree. By the way, Pete Hoffman, shout out to my guy Pete Hoffman from The Fan. I was producing for him this weekend. And he said something that made me laugh out loud, but also I was like, huh, is that so crazy? It just might work. What if the Mets brought back Jorge Lopez to rewrite to rewrite the wrongs, right? Like make someone in the stands throw a glove to him for his first outing, right? Someone behind the dugout takes Jorge Lopez's glove and throws it to him at on the
as he's going
field
to the mound,
as you go into the mound. And there you go. You rewrite what happened last year and bring him in because listen, he's been a good bullpen arm in the past, right? Like they could possibly use him. Now, I don't know if that's way too far gone. I don't know if he would never come back to this team and to the stadium. But if the Mets bring back Jorge Lopez, maybe they can reverse jinx it back to reality of where they need to be. But that somebody in the chat just wrote Jorge Lopez throws out the first pitch, dude. It's so crazy. It just might work, right? Like, it could be.
Armand is saying
something
maybe
that could
Paul
work.
Blackburn should be the new Jorge Lopez.
There you go. Let Paul Blackburn, die on the sword and have a freak out and, fight somebody on the other team or something like that. And then we'll get back on track.
Look, hopefully this team does get back on track and, they got a big homestand coming up against Milwaukee and the Yankees. Please definitely beat the Yankees. I don't need to be on X and just see the drawing from Yankee fans going back and forth like we saw in the first series. Have some home pride and take care of business at Citi Field against the Yankees and win that series. Pete, man, this has been a lot of fun. Look, over 200 people have been in the room with us today.
Let's
chatting
go.
it up with us, enjoying the show. Appreciate every single one of them. Let everyone know what you got coming up, what you're working on, and where everyone can reach you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So Subway Sports Talk is my podcast. I have a rotating group of guys who are Mets fans, Yankee fans, basketball fans. We do a lot of Knicks talk, a lot of NFL as well. So if you're a New York sports fan in general, you'll go there for Giants and Jets talk. You go there for NFL at large. You go there for Knicks as well. And of course, Mets and some Yankees on Subway Sports Talk on your podcast app, on YouTube, and also on social media. You can follow me on TikTok. That's where I post most of my social content on TikTok. I do a lot of good little chats up there and talk sports, man. What more can we ask for in life than to talk sports? Chatting with you today, Ant, was awesome. I know we've done some T.O. Allen Friends together. You popped on there a couple times. So T.O. Allen Friends is Thursday nights on Uptown Sports TV on YouTube. That's with Anthony Gallo from The Fan, with Alison Trone from The Fan.
Who's also been on the show. I feel like I've got the whole tripod, the whole trinity.
And they're awesome.
T.O. Allen Friends.
And by the way, if you like the Mets, obviously, since you're listening to this podcast, T.O. Allen Friends Thursday nights, we market ourselves as a New York podcast, but we talk a lot of Mets. We got 3 Mets fans on there, so go check that out on Thursday nights as well. And yeah, Pete Kennedy on my socials personally, but Subway Sports Talk and Pete Kennedy on TikTok is where you'll find most of my social content, which I see you out there posting on TikTok too, and crushing it as always.
Oh, we love content creating. We love being a part of the New York sports scene, and it's always a lot of fun. Appreciate you for coming on. You can follow me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea, and make sure you're following me as well personally at Ant Rivera 86 on X. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. This podcast will be up later, either tonight or maybe early Monday morning. But if you want to be a part of the chat, you want to be a part of the conversation, you're doing it right here on YouTube. And I appreciate over the 200 people that joined us to talk about these New York Mets, even through the struggles, even through the panic. But we're telling you right now, don't panic just yet. Keep watching this team. Keep trying to enjoy hopefully a game that they win. They got to win at some point, right?
Yeah, 100%. Go to that drawer at your desk, pull it out. Make sure the button's there, and then close the drawer. That's all you got to do. Don't hit the button just yet. We're not panicking just yet. It's all good. And trust me, the subway to subway connection right here is going to drive us to victory today. It's the collab that no one asked for, but everyone needed. The subway connection here. Subway to Shea, Subway Sports Talk. It's perfect, man. It's what we were made for this.
For Pete Kennedy, for yours truly, Anthony Rivera, this has been the Subway to Shea podcast. And always remember, let's go Mets.